Welcome back. Now, let's switch gears now to the domestic commodities markets with a research analyst at the financial derivatives company, Desola Sumoni. Good morning, Desola. Thanks for joining us on the program. Now, oil prices were volatile last week, and we're seeing the volatility persist this week. What do you make of oil markets at this time?
Thank you for that question, BC, and thank you for having me on the show. So it seems as if oil prices now found a new normal at $40 per barrel. We are seeing support for oil prices at $40 per barrel. However, there are like opposing factors that are driving oil prices at this time. On the upside, we are seeing stronger commitments to the OPEC production cuts. We are seeing sharper declines in exports from Russia. We're also seeing, this week, Iraq is supposed to, set out plans to demonstrate their commitments to the OPEC production cut, which is going to be closely watched by the market. They're also going to set out plans to make up for the couple of months where they did not comply with the OPEC production cuts. We're also seeing a decline in oil rig count coming from North America, the US, and Canada, which oil rig count simply signals future supply. So we are seeing a reduction in oil rig count. So all these factors put together, are pushing oil prices forward, upward. But on the other hand, we are seeing resurgence in cases, in coronavirus cases. Last week we saw in the United States, in China, in Germany, and most recently in South Korea, huge resurgence in cases in these key economies, which is raising fears about a second lockdown and the potential impact that would have on economic recovery and the demand for oil. So we're also seeing the potential of new supply coming online as oil prices are increased. So these factors, contravening factors are keeping oil prices stable around like $40 per barrel with mild volatility. So going forward, we expect that if oil demand continues to grow at the current pace, as more and more economies open up lockdown and there's more and more demand for oil, and we don't see a resurgence in coronavirus cases in these key economies, then I think that oil prices will trade between the range of $45 to $50 per barrel.
Now, the COVID-19 lockdown implies that demand for crude oil and natural gas has taken a beating amid a supply glut. Now, what does this imply for Nigeria's LNG export earnings, which actually accounts for about 11.3% of total exports?
Right. So it will interest you to know that Nigeria's LNG export has actually remained resilient despite the coronavirus pandemic. Data from S&P Global Plus showed that Nigeria's export of LNG for the first 5 years of this month declined only about 4% year on year, and which is quite good. It shows that exports is robust. And now the challenge is on the demand side. Now Nigeria is one of the oldest and one of the biggest suppliers of LNG to Europe. Now in Europe, first of all, we saw a milder than expected, a warm winter essentially, which reduced demand for LNG. So already we're seeing a slowdown in demand growth. Then a lot of economies locked down because of this coronavirus pandemic, which further dented demand for LNG. So what we have right now is a situation where there's a lot of supply. There's huge supply coming from Nigeria, coming from West Africa, but there's nobody to buy it, particularly in Europe. We are seeing that a lot of buyers in Europe are actually deferring buying LNG or even totally refusing to offtake LNG. So we have a situation where a lot of, some analysts even estimate that about 50% of all LNG cargoes on the sea contain Nigeria's LNG, which is a recipe for price decline. So think of it. We have tepid demand, first of all, coming from a warm winter, then the impact of coronavirus pandemic. Then we have huge spike in stockpiles with a lot of vessels containing Nigeria LNG lying idle at sea. Then we have Nigeria still exporting huge amounts of LNG. So all these factors point to the fact that the LNG prices are going to dip further, and already LNG prices are down 22% year to date. So our expectation is that prices are going to go down further, and it has huge implications for Nigeria's export revenue in terms of LNG. Like you said, LNG accounts for about 11-12% of Nigeria's export revenue, and last year this was about I think 1.3 billion US dollars in terms of revenue. So that is expected to take a serious beating because of the factors I've mentioned above. So we expect that export revenue from LNG is going to decline. But I don't know. I can't give you the magnitude, but we expect export revenue from LNG to decline.
We'll see how that goes. Now, another issue is the fact that while the Dubai International Airport has reopened for full international flights, now Nigerian airports, on the other hand, remain closed. So, how do you think the closed airports would affect the Nigerian economy, and what's the future of international flights post COVID-19?
So Dubai, one of the mainstays of the Dubai economy is tourism. So it's they needed to get their airports ready. In fact, I think they are open for tourism business on July 7th, I think. So what has happened is Dubai Airport was able to, prepare their airlines and the airports for a COVID secure travel experience. In Nigeria, Nigeria's airport was supposed to open on June 21st, which was Sunday, I believe. But because of various levels of unpreparedness, the opening has been postponed. Now, and that's already the impact of COVID-19 on airline industry globally has been significant. Even in Nigeria, the report from the Ministry of Aviation showed that already the Nigerian economy has lost about 69 billion naira from COVID-19 pandemic, which comes down to about 21 billion naira monthly. So the impact has been, in terms of revenue, the impact has been severe. In terms of job losses, a lot of people have already lost their jobs in the aviation supply chain because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And the people who did not lose their jobs, they already they experience cuts to their salaries. So already the impact is severe, and it is not surprising. I mean, if you look at data for airline travel, international air traffic declined by 90% in April alone, and this whole Q2 is projected to decline by another 90%. So it's significant. So I think the effect on the economy is quite huge, and I think there are plans by the government to rescue the aviation sector, because at this time I think that's the only way they can get out of this pandemic alive.
All right, research analyst at the financial derivatives company, Desola Sumoni, thanks for your time.